Okay, Ryan, so looking at your essay, first thing to note that I was really happy with was this. Really lovely to see somebody actually do a plan because it shows the examiner clearly what your line of thinking was, and your essay clearly follows this structure. So that's really good. What I've done as I've gone through your essay is I've highlighted whether each paragraph was for, against, or for and against the statement in the question. One thing to note from the start and end of your essay is that you do tend to use language like I, which actually in history is frowned upon, so you don't want to use the first person in your essay at all. If you can avoid it, that's best practice. So your first argument here, all I would say is this is a little bit repetitive, what you've said in your first and second paragraph. You kind of repeat yourself a little bit, so to avoid that becoming a little bit too descriptive, you could shorten that part of your essay. Next, we've got a long argument for the statement in the question. This is a little bit descriptive about the Boer War. So I would find a way to make that a little more of an analytical approach, if you could. So when you're looking at improving this essay, really focus on how you could sort of précis this part of your argument and make it a little more analytical. Moving on, you've got some more arguments for. So let's follow this part of your essay through. So secondly, a damaging factor was their support of tariff reforms. They believe that higher taxes should be placed on goods being imported from outside the empire. This, it would hope, would make British trade more competitive and protect her empire. However, there was one problem. One everyone was constantly reminded of by liberals. With these reforms would also come higher prices for everyday items. The prices of things such as bread was increased. And you want to really touch on the fact that Balfour really kind of misjudged public mood at this time on that. You can also talk about free trade. So you could say sort of in the recent past, the Liberals have been quite disunited as a party, but free trade was a policy that they all united over. And under the leadership of Campbell Bannerman, free trade allowed the Liberals to engage in a lively election campaign, which included their big loaf, little loaf posters. So if you look at that, that's just one thing that could really elevate this part of your answer. And you can say how those posters and that part of their campaign really resonated with the working classes who actually made up the majority of the electorate. So thirdly, you talk about Chinese slavery. So we've got your point. Thirdly, there was the issue of Chinese slavery. Your evidence: in South Africa, Chinese workers were imported to work on British land for extremely low wages. They were treated very harshly. The unions feared unemployment for British people. Your explanation is good. So the Liberals told of how they would abolish slavery. However, they never actually did abolish it. You haven't really linked back to the question here. So I would say there's a link missing here. So can you add that in your redo? Fourthly, the issue of home rule for Ireland and infighting, which lost them a lot of confidence and support. They strongly opposed home rule for Ireland, whereas others supported it. Rather than just saying whilst others supported it, really get into the detail of the infighting there if you can. So here you just continue that argument. At the end here of your home rule for Ireland, I would talk about the fact that there were actually splits within the Liberal Party. However, they made a sort of conscious decision to put those to one side during the election campaign, which meant that infighting, unlike the Conservatives, wasn't as evident during the campaign, the election campaign. I like your bit here about the lack of strong leadership with Balfour. That's really good. He had a failure to unite the party, which greatly hurt the Conservatives. He even made the unforgivable mistake of resigning his government from office. Yes, I would even go as far to add in here just a little one-liner about how, again, he misjudged public mood when he asked the King to dissolve Parliament in December 1905. That would just really that bit of specific information would really elevate your essay. Again, you've got another for argument here. I like this argument. It's got good peel structure, and you link it at the end with the losing them lots of support. The Education Act argument is also put. Mention here, that was a really unpopular piece of Conservative legislation. You've gone into a bit of the explanation of why. Just finishing off there with, no way yet have you added that actually the Liberals were gaining part of the electorate who had failed to use their vote before. This would be a good place to put that. The last thing I believe to have an effect on the Liberal victory was not necessarily. So here is really where you're putting your first piece of challenging the statement in the question. So we've got a lot of arguments for, which is fine. However, I would say that there is more to say on the side of challenging that statement in the question. So you could have something about the fact that the Liberal Party capitalised on the issues present in the first past the post system by working in conjunction with the LRC. They managed to prevent splitting the non-Conservative vote into in many of their constituencies. Something like that would really just elevate your essay and make it a little less one-sided. Again, ditch the use of I here, please. It's fine to do in an English essay, but it's not fine to do in history. You've done a bit of a conclusion here. Thus, I can say that I believe the Liberal victory was due to the Liberals taking advantage of Conservative mistakes. That's fine, short and sweet. But again, if you'd mentioned first past the post in your conclusion, then it would have made your conclusion a lot sort of stronger. Finally, then, let's just have a look at the grade descriptors. So you're definitely not level 1. So immediately we'll look at what parts of level 2 you've met. The answer is descriptive or partial, showing some awareness. You've definitely met all requirements of level 2. It is descriptive in places. However, I would say you've got more than some awareness of the demands of the question. So let's look at level 3. The answer will show some understanding of the full demands of the question, and the answer will be adequately organised. It is good use of peel throughout. There will be appropriate information showing an understanding of some of the key features or issues, but the answer may be limited in scope. It is a little limited in scope only because of your failure to address some of the challenges to the question. However, I do think you've met some of level 4. You've shown an understanding of the question. You've shown a range of largely accurate information. Some of your judgments are generalised though. So when this happens and you are sort of in between two levels, you look at where you've met the majority. So you have actually met the majority of level 3, but because you've hit some of level 4 as well, that would put you at the top of the level 3 banding. So for this essay, I would actually award you 15 marks in total. So the very top of that level. So, sorry, let me just sort out my stylus. So 15 marks, that is 60%, which is a solid C. Very well done. Very good first attempt.